Hi, hope you've all had a good day. Chapter 20. In Arthur's haste to chase the victorious, he had forgotten about the darkness within the forest. It's just beasts, he breathed. Judging by the height of the eyes, the creatures were enormous, much taller than a person. Don't make any sudden movements, Harriet said. Emerald eyes shone in every direction. They were surrounded. Then Arthur's head buzzed as though a wave of electricity passed through them, and he felt the creature in his thoughts, probing, testing, demanding. Inside his mind were powerful feelings that started to form words, like the messages he'd heard before, but it was too confusing. Harriet must have heard too this time, because they both clasped their ears to block it, but it was right inside of them. "Run!" Harriet shouted, grabbing his arm. But her sudden movement seemed to release the creatures, who charged from the surrounding forest, snow flying from beneath their great paws. Arthur and Harriet spun around frantically, but there was nowhere to go, and all he could see was fur and great white teeth coming for them. An enormous beast, twice the height of him, pounced. It crashed into him and bowled him over, tumbling to the frozen earth, before pinning him with its great paws and huge muscular shoulders. Another held Harriet beside him. Paralysed by fear, he shut his eyes tight, praying for it to be over quickly. The creature's paws were heavy on his chest, the pinch of claws threatening to bite into him. The feeling was in his head again, forming into a word. It said fear. But it wasn't coming from him, it was coming from somewhere else. He tried to block it out and forced his eyes open. The creature's face stared down at him. Its snout curled with a fierce snarl, and its hackles raised. "Do you fear?" Its great shoulders tensed as it seemed to wait for his reply. Arthur's whole body trembled, but he forced himself to stare back. Dad would have faced it head on. If this was his end, and it was to be the same as Dad, then he should at least try to be brave, as his father would have been. Terrible scenes raced through his head as he imagined these terrible creatures killing Dad and the crew. The great wolf's head tilted, and then came the feeling inside his head again, the words trying to form. He didn't want it there. "Fear, you fear," the words said inside him. Perhaps his terror was sending him mad. "Stop!" he blurted, shaking his head. "Arthur, don't provoke it," Harriet urged beside him. "Look," the voice in his head said. The claws dug into his chest. "Just kill us and be done with it," Arthur urged, and squeezed his eyes shut. The voice sounded in his head, strong and clear, somehow calmer. "Look." The pressure on Arthur's chest eased a little. He opened his eyes, his pulse racing in a constant stream of beats. The great beast's face was inches from his own, but for some reason it still held back from attacking. More words rushed in Arthur's head. The creature was trying to communicate something. A question formed inside Arthur, something about hearing or listening. He forced himself to look into its eyes, and the words seemed clearer. "Can you listen?" After a moment, Arthur nodded shakily. Words flashed through his mind too quickly to grasp, and he felt too panicked still to hear them. The sound of his own heart thumping against his ribs was louder than anything. "Please don't hurt us," he thought. The creature tilted its head again. What did people say in situations like this, meeting strange, hostile creatures? "We come in peace," he thought, but it sounded ridiculous. "You are in pieces," came the reply in his head. The great wolf, looked across to the one pinning Harriet. Arthur almost laughed despite the terror still gripping him, but the words were clearer this time, easier to comprehend, as though his brain was becoming used to these strange feelings and words. The wolf-like creature was talking to him through thought, and he couldn't believe it, but he could understand. Peace, no harm, Arthur thought. The wolf eased his paws from Arthur. "No harm," came the reply in Arthur's head. "What's going on?" Harriet remained pinned beside him. "Welby said to bring guns as backup, but I didn't listen. I said it was a slippery road. Now Her wolf growled. "Harriet, I think we should just stay very still." Arthur said, and try not to think anything aggressive. Arthur slowly eased himself to sitting. What are you? He thought. The words were hard to understand, but his brain turned it into something that sounded like thought wolves. It seemed to describe them perfectly. More words rushed him. Slower, he thought. There was a pause, then the words came more slowly. We know you two-legged creatures. He thought of Dad and swallowed. Come in with your flying beasts, breathing smoke on our snow forest. It growled and snarled at him. You came before and attacked us, killed one of my pack. He looked across at Harriet, who still looked terrified. Please let us go. It wasn't us. We're not like that. The sickly scent is in the air again. Arthur understood that the wolf meant Adora. He remembered the pout. We are peaceful, the ones who harmed your pack before. Their leader was a female two legs, the one with the sickly sweet smell. The wolf growled. The one with a sickly scent told us you had killed a two-legs crew, a human pack. We fed from the forest only. We feed from the forest only. Relief flooded through Arthur. The thought wolves hadn't killed Dad or the crew. They had no reason to lie. We aren't your enemy. We're here looking for answers. The thought wolf paused in thought, then looked at the one pinning Harriet. It released her. The others lost their aggression in an instant. Arthur brushed himself down. What's going on? Can you hear strange buzzing? Harriet said, her voice still panicked. I can hear it. They're communicating with us, but don't listen for words. Listen for a feeling in their thoughts, and they become words. It's how they speak with each other. And they didn't kill Dad and his crew, he said. It was Andorra who attacked and killed one of their pack before. Harriet stared at him, dumbstruck. You've worked all that out with them? By thinking it? Arthur shrugged sheepishly. I am Toyuk. The wolf bowed his head to him. My name is Arthur. He gave a nod. Your sky beast crashed. Our ship. Yes, the female pack leader. She's called on Endora Vane. It was her fault. She doesn't lead our pack. She has a different ship, Sky Beast. She's flown onwards. Toyuk paced around him. Why are you here? We're racing to South Polaris. It's the furthest point south. To search for food? No, we're going because, well, we've never been there. Humans, that is. Two legs. Toyuk looked curiously at him. And we're also here because my father and his crew died here, and we want to find out how. You seek truth? Yes, and now we know they weren't killed by wolves. It's more important than ever that we find out what happened, and the answers are here somewhere. I'm certain. Toyuk's thought presence left Arthur for a moment to speak with another thought wolf. What's going on? Harriet said, looking uncharacteristically pale. Are you all right? They don't mean us any harm. Toyuk returned to him. We will take you where you must go, pack leader Arthur. Oh, I'm not pack leader. She is, Arthur thought, and looked towards Harriet. Did you hear? They're going to help us. I've still no idea what you're hearing. It's just a buzzing in my head that I can't make out. We can get you through the forest to the frozen lake, where the ghost skyship lies, but that's as far as we travel. The ghost skyship, he thought, realising Toyuk meant Dad's ship, the Violetta. A small ripple of hope rushed through him. I am sorry, cub. The ghost skyship is a place of death and echoes. There have been no living two-legs in this land for many moon cycles. Arthur swallowed back the lump in his throat and grabbed the locket hanging around his neck. He'd been told before that his father was dead, but he had to keep on hoping until he knew for certain, until he had proof of death to match his proof of life. But you may find the answers you seek there. We hope so, and we want more than anything to still beat Endora Vane to South Polaris. Toyuk growled at the thought of her. What is it saying? Harriet asked. They're taking us to the frozen lake. Harriet looked at him with utter astonishment. Then a great smile broadened her lips. It seems luck is back on our side. We need to return to the ship, get Felicity and Maudie, and pack supplies. Tyok bowed his head. We will meet you back here. With that, Tyok leapt through the snow towards the other thought walls. Arthur heard a rush of thoughts from the other thought walls before they disappeared, as though the wolves could choose who around them could hear their thoughts. It's clever, isn't it? When Arthur and Harriet arrived back in the clearing, Maudie gave him her death stare and marched right over, finger pointing and yelling at him. What were you thinking? You could have got lost or worse. At least Harriet was quick enough to go after you. You could have been eaten by the beast. Wait, why are you grinning? She stamped on his foot. Ow! I'm trying to explain, Maud. We met the beasts, except they're not beasts. They're thought wolves, and they're nothing like we've been led to believe. They're amazing. They speak through their thoughts, and I can understand what they mean. Their pack leader, Tyok, spoke to me and said Endora killed some of them last time. They've never harmed a human, so that means... Stop talking so fast. You're telling me you've spoken to wolves? She gave Harriet a sideways glance. He must have hit his head pretty hard. It's true, said Harriet. Incredible, unbelievable, but it's true. So the wolves definitely didn't kill Dad and the crew. He shook his head. And you know this because they speak to you through your thoughts? They're sapient creatures, but unlike any sapient creature in the first or second continents, they show a higher level of understanding. It's as though they've taken it to a whole new level. They can actually talk to us. That's pretty amazing, Artie, she said, her eyes telling him she still doubted it. And they're going to take us further. Maudie paused, then shrugged and said, What are we waiting for? Quickly they packed for the journey. Felicity was more than pleased to be coming along, but first insisted on taking Welby through the fine details on how to feed the remaining crew and how to ration. I'm well versed in this kind of affair, madam, he said, raising his great eyebrows. Harriet spoke with Forbes, Gilly and the others, giving advice and instructions on what could work and drawing hurried plans. They dressed warmly and packed rations, tools and essentials into the backpacks. Marantha circled above, keen to get going. Queenie tottered out from the wreckage of the Aurora. Harriet picked her up and stroked her thick fur. I'm sorry, dearest, but you need to stay here and look after Welby and the others. The 4 explorers said their goodbyes to the rest of the crew and disappeared into the darkness of the forest. Turco and his pack were lying together in the snow where Harriet and Arthur had left them, keeping each other warm. When he saw Arthur, Tyok stood and stretched out his paws. Maudie tensed and Felicity grabbed her. Towering T-bots, are you sure about this, Arthur? Brightstorm? They're really friendly, he smiled. They're really enormous, Felicity said shakily. Maudie frowned. I can hear thoughts, words, someone else's in my head. Well, it's all a bit jumbled, but that's weird. What are you meaning by that, Flower? I can't hear anything apart from my knees knocking, Felicity said. Harriet looked thoughtful. Interesting. Of the 4 of us, it seems it's just you 2. Perhaps young minds are more open to such things. Take it slowly, Maud. If it's too fast, ask them to slow down. It gets easier with every sentence. Sometimes they all talk and it gets a bit confused, and sometimes it's as if they are able to block everything else out and can direct a thought only to you. Let's get going. Do you lead the way and we'll walk behind? Harriet asked. There will be no need to walk. You will ride with us, Tyok said. Arthur and Maudie both grew wide-eyed and grinned. We aren't walking, we're riding, Arthur said. Tyok dipped the front of his body to the snow, and Arthur swung his leg over his great shoulders and climbed onto the strong back. It was soft and warm, like hugging a great carpet. Arthur rode pure white Tyok. Harriet, a muscular, silky brown wolf called Sangalake. Felicity rode Kinnapak, a white wolf with grey patches around her eyes like a mask, and big padding feet, which went well with Felicity's own. Maudie went with Slartok, who was midnight black. They looked a breathtaking pair, with their fierce stares. Ready? Said Tyok, and the And the instant Arthur thought yes, they took off, charging through the great snowy forest. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow now. Bye.